Remedy Entertainment has always done a good job at telling a story with a bit of a weird twist or theme. Their latest game, Control, is no different. It does an incredible job in driving players forward with its engaging story and characters while delivering a gameplay experience that is exciting and incredibly entertaining. Control is something special. In Control, you assume the role of Jessie Faden, a young woman who gains powers after a traumatic childhood experience. She visits a skyscraper in New York called the Oldest House, which is the headquarters of the FBC, or the Federal Bureau of Control, an agency that deals with all cases of items or events that violate the laws of science. Jessie visits the building to learn more about her traumatic experience in addition to the origins of her powers. During her visit, Jessie becomes the new director of the agency after the existing one is mysteriously killed, and she is chosen by a supernatural gun called the service weapon. Not only that, but the Oldest House also comes under attack by a malicious otherworldly force known as the Hiss, which Jessie will have to deal with. The story is great. It's a narrative filled with mystery and is told incredibly well with the right pacing. The main narrative has a major focus on the supernatural, and the theme is consistent all the way through, feeding you just enough to keep you wondering what's going to happen next. You can also learn more about the Bureau, their staff, and everything that happens in the Oldest House by collecting documents, audio tapes, and videos that litter the building's various floors. The characters, including Jessie, complement the story really well. There's an intriguing cast that help with moving the story along, in addition to leaving you with even more questions. It really is an exciting mix of sci-fi and mystery. As mentioned before, Jessie is chosen as the new handler of the service weapon, and it is the only gun you'll use throughout the game. This is no ordinary gun though, as it is an object of power and it has the ability to take many forms, from a standard pistol to a shotgun and even a railgun. The service weapon also doesn't make use of conventional ammo and will instead recharge when it's not being used. Shooting isn't the only part of combat however, as Jessie has a few abilities to make use of. One of the abilities you'll be using the most is her launch ability, which allows you to grab items and hurl it at enemies to do massive damage. There are also defensive and evasive abilities available to make you harder to hit. There's a limit to how frequently the abilities can be used though, as these make use of Jessie's energy. The combat is a satisfying combination of shooting and abilities, and learning to use both of them interchangeably while balancing your ammo and energy levels. It's the only way to survive encounters with a Hiss. This is especially true as you progress further into the game and face off with new and more challenging enemies. It really has some of the most thrilling and engaging combat ever seen in a Remedy title. There's also no regenerating health in Control, and instead Jessie regains health by defeating enemies. You're actually encouraged to be aggressive and clear the room of hostiles. Control has been designed to function as sort of a Metroidvania, requiring you to backtrack after having obtained certain items or upgrades in order to explore that area. Most of the game opens up after the first few hours, and you're free to explore all of the Oldest House from that point on. There are also some side quests that crop up while you're playing through the main story, and while these are optional, the game almost insists that you don't ignore them. Completing side quests yields rewards such as new abilities to add to your arsenal, making them quite invaluable. If you only stick to the main missions, you'll completely miss some of the abilities. Control also features some puzzle solving, and for the most part they won't leave you scratching your head. However, the way they've been implemented is great. It suits the game's theme and Jessie's powers as well. Jessie, her abilities, and the service weapon are upgradable using the game's skill tree. Completing main and side missions net you ability points, which can then be used to upgrade Jessie's stats or unlock better versions of previously unlocked abilities. You can further upgrade your stats with the use of mods, which apply certain perks. The more nodes you unlock in the skill tree, the more mods you can install. I loved having the kind of control over my stats and my weapons, so I could install what I needed based on my playstyle. Control is absolutely gorgeous. The way it plays with lighting makes for such an atmospheric experience. The character models look pretty great, and there's a fairly varied selection of enemy types ranging from average human enemies to creepy enemies who appear contorted. Also, destruction looks fantastic. Each room that houses a fight just looks like a complete mess afterwards. Some of the best effects happen when you cleanse the various control points, which activates a flurry of shape-shifting in that room, restoring the room to its former size and shape. The particle effects and explosions look especially good. There was a bit of a frame rate drop every time I entered fairly large fights, and it was a little distracting since it would be continuous until all the enemies had been dispatched. The game's audio is pretty much on par with its visuals. Music is mostly quite subtle but will ramp up when there are enemies to fight. The voice acting from Jessie and the various other characters is superb and is supported with some great dialogue. Control is truly a fantastic game. It features some of the most engaging combat I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing, and the game's story is just exceptional as it delves into the supernatural goings on at the FBC and the Oldest House. There are some instances where the game slows down in busy areas, but it really detracts from the experience. Adding to that, the game is quite challenging, which may put certain players off, but it isn't crushing. Control is thoroughly entertaining and may just be Remedy's best work yet. If you enjoyed this review, please hit that like button, and if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you got your hands on Control, let me know what you thought of the game in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you next time.